What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. Today, we are going to be sharing with you something that is super important, something that we see being, a mistake being made, and that is finding the right products and not just the products that are trending or that are hot right now or just something that's selling. We are going to show you the product research process, the way that we do it, the way that we recommend that you do it, and really not just looking at the numbers as far as, wow, this thing is selling a lot, more of, does it go with your brand? And is this something that we can add to your brand? We're also going to be talking about demand because that's a big one. And a lot of people have asked us, what's good demand? We're going to share with you what we feel is good demand, and it is going to vary. I will put that out there. But like I said earlier, this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that we see being made by new sellers and, well, let's be frank, existing sellers, ones that are struggling, that they might have been doing this for 6 months, 8 months, a year, and they're wondering why they're struggling. Hopefully, this is going to help you. So we're going to actually dig in. We're going to pull up Everbee. We're going to dig into the numbers. We're going to show you what it looks like to find in-demand products. We're also going to be showing you products that could go very well together. And that's how I want you to start thinking about this, or at least I recommend that you start thinking about this as far as creating what we call product lines for your brand and not just one-off products. All right. And we found some really good ones here that go well together. We've got some really good numbers to share with you, but more importantly, we want to show you how we look at these and how we analyze these. All right. So with that all being said, I think I teed it up pretty well. Chris Schaefer's with us, and he's going to probably be digging into some of that data for us and pulling back that curtain or opening up the laptop. So Chris, are you ready to dive in and start doing a little product research?
I am. And I know, Scott, you said we have a bunch of good examples, and unfortunately, none of them are dancing avocado mugs because what we're not looking for is one product that's going to make us $1 million, right? What we're looking for, and you mentioned this just a second ago, Scott, is how can we find a product line? The goal here is not to find one thing that's going to make us money in the short term. It's to find a variety of things. And I think all of the examples that we're going to be going through here today, Scott, none based on audience feedback are related to bass fishing. That's the other thing I wanted to throw out there because that's, I know, an example that we go to quite often. None of these are designed to be necessarily home runs. These are not designed to be the one thing that's going to change your business. It's designed to show you what profitable products, money-making products actually look like, the realistic expectations that you should have, and how to build a suite of those products so that as seasonality happens, as demand changes slightly throughout the year, or as some of the more trendy type things might ebb and flow a little bit, that we still have that solid base, that solid foundation of sales and revenue coming into the business. Because if we're building our business based on the hopes and dreams of selling $10,000 worth of avocado mugs, even if we do have some success with that up front, we end up putting ourselves in the whole long term because we have some wrong expectations. I know we're going to be diving into what's right, what's wrong, how to do this process, and then diving into some of the examples. But this is not about finding one thing. It's all about finding that suite of products so that we can have some balance in our lives, in our sales, and in our business.
Yeah, I mean, those are great. Those are great points. I really want to. I want to treat this as a class, to where we're actually going to walk through this process with you. But it all starts with understanding, like Chris just said, understanding what the demand is or what your demand is. And we have done now to date, what is it, 22? No, maybe. Yeah, I think it's 22. Chris, 21 or 22. I can't keep track anymore. I think it's 22, or maybe it's 22 is going to be happening next week. Whatever. We've done 20 plus Etsy shop audits. And every time that we go through a demand example, it's different for every single person. Because if your target number is different than that person's target number, and what we mean by that is like, what's your goal? What's your end goal? Is it $3,000 a month? Is it $5,000? Is it $10,000? So that's going to change. The minute that we figure that part out, from there, Now we can go to work and see, okay, are these products going to allow us to reach our target? All right. So that's the very first thing that we need to understand. Then what we always advise our Etsy shop auditees is we have them focus on finding 3 to 5 products that have good demand that will be driving in the traffic. So I want you to imagine having 3 to 5 products that is being searched for. That's the other key key point here I want to make is like, we've got to make sure that this stuff is being searched for. It's not just, oh, this would be really cool, I think people would like this. We have to remove that from our mindset right now. And what we need to do is focus on products that we know people are actually searching for. That's the big one. Okay. And then once we do that, we switch the mindset to where we're like, okay, we got to find 3 to 5 products that people are actively searching for in our niche. Now we go to work finding those 3 to 5 products. Now what happens is we take those 3 to 5 products, and now we can really lean into Etsy ads because we know that they're being searched for. So we want to drive traffic. We're okay with spending money on driving traffic to those because we know there's demand, but also, and here's the key factor here in this whole thing, is we're not just going to sell 3 to 5 products. Yes, we would like all of our products to have good demand, but even if they don't have good demand and you have products that you think someone would buy because they're related to your product, but they don't have great search traffic on Etsy, that's the time that you would put those in your shop. So if you think about this like a brick and mortar store, you might go, oh, you know what? People really like, I don't know, bird stuff. And you have a bird store, right? And I don't mean like selling birds, but like bird houses and bird feeders and bird baths and like all things like that. People are like, I'm going to go in there because I'm looking for a bird bath. I'm going in there because I am going to look for a new, birdhouse, like any of that stuff. Right. But while they're in there, you might have a bird book, or you might have, I don't know, maybe it's binoculars so they can look at the birds from a distance. Like, these are the things that we can now add. And if someone comes in the store, they're likely to maybe buy it because they're interested in the thing that brought them in the store. So let me know in the comments if that makes sense. And if it's a different thinking than you've been thinking up to this point, because I know for a lot of people it is, and it's okay if it is. I want that shift to happen. I want you to be like, oh, I get it. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, right? And if it doesn't make sense and you're like, no, Scott, I just want to find that one product that's going to make me $1 million, probably not going to want to continue watching this or attending our live streams in the future, because that's really what we lean into. All right. So I just really, really want to get clear. Chris, are we getting any comments or anything that we want to highlight here before we move into the actual product research?
Yeah, 2 things. One, I think you did just come up with $1 million product idea with bird noculars, not binoculars.
There you go. See that?
Right? Put some little wings on there. We're good to go. $1 million guaranteed. Speaking of $1 million, Scott, you were just talking about 3 to 5 products really as the foundation. If our goal is not $100,000 a year, it's not $200,000 a year, but we really want to build that $1 million a year business, does that advice change at all? Or are we still looking to set that foundation with 3 to 5 products? Is that enough if we have the higher income goals?
Yeah, if we have the higher goals, yes, it is possible. I don't know if it's possible to do that on Etsy alone. Okay, that's where the research would have to come in and go, are there enough people looking for this thing? But the cool thing about it is like when you're going down this build a brand avenue, like we talk about, and building it in a niche, these products are products that could sell outside of Etsy. And that's the big thing, right? It's like we want to find products that people would buy on Etsy, but they would also buy on Amazon. They'd also buy on Walmart. They'd also buy on your own website, or you can get traffic over on Facebook or through Google. That's kind of what we want to run the filter through that as well and go, okay, am I just building this for Etsy, or am I building this for my e-commerce brand? And I think if you did that and all your focus went on that, you launch on Etsy, but knowing that you could get a lot more traffic over here in the future if you choose to. And that's how you would reach those higher goals, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think there are some niches within the Etsy ecosystem, like weddings, that you could probably get to $1 million a year just on Etsy. Are you going to do that with 3 to 5 products? Maybe, maybe not. But that's why we're going through the demand phase first. We have to set that number. And Scott, I think the live chat as we're on here is a perfect example of why you need to set that goal before you can say, this is my niche or these are my products. We have $1,000 a month coming in the chat, and we have $1 million a year coming in as the inventory or as the income goals, right? We couldn't be much further apart in terms of the amount of revenue. And so the products that are going to work for you will depend on that goal. Somebody who's shooting for $1 million a year is probably going to ignore the products that they're only going to make $500-600 a month on, because they need to sell substantially more than that. If your goal is to have a little bit of side hustle income, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 extra a month, then having one of those 3 to 5 products selling $500-600 a month in profit is not unrealistic. And it lets us find other niches or other sub niches that we can take a look at and get our foot in the door with. But it's all going to be dependent on that goal. If our goal is to get to that $1 million, we're going to ignore some of the products that might be very appealing to somebody who's only looking at $1,000, $2,000, maybe $3,000 in profit. So knowing that number, knowing what you're shooting for, is really going to determine how you even start this product research process.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, we've talked about that before, and I think that's a great starting place. Is like, you should sit down and figure out what your target is, right? If it's the 3,000, okay, now we have to reverse engineer, like, how much is each product going to earn you in profit? How many of those do you have to sell a day? How many do you have to sell a month? And then you kind of reverse engineer that. I would say also too, for anyone that's thinking like, okay, I want to build this thing to $1 million, build it to 100,000 first. If you build it to 100,000, there's a pretty good chance you can get to maybe 300,000 and then maybe to 500,000. It's like, you can't go from 0 to 100, right? Like overnight. You got to get from 0 to a sale to 10 sales to 100 sales. Like, you have to gradually get there. So I love the lofty goal, but we have to, you know, kind of break that down and make it smaller, right? So this way here, we can get to that one part. Like, getting to the $1 million is so far off. But let's get to 100K. And if you do that, you're going to learn so much, and then you can learn how to scale from that point. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, because I think a lot of people want to shoot for the moon, which is great, but you have to set real expectations. And to think that you're going to start on Etsy and in 12 months make $1 million profit in your bank account, I would think would be a stretch. Can it happen? Sure, anything can happen. But I think that you'd be setting yourself up for disappointment, because you gotta be able to get the framework and the foundation and everything set, and really understanding the business, and then you take it to scale. So if you did what we're saying, find 3 to 5 products, drive in the traffic. Those are your main traffic product, let's call it. You got a suite of products that are also in your shop. You could take those products now and start advertising on Facebook, and not just to Etsy, but to your own Shopify store. And then you can build, email sequences in, more advanced email programs. But that's where you scale. You learn as you grow. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. All right, cool. So here's what we want you to do. We're going to dig in. We're going to start doing the product research. What I would like you guys to do, though, is in the comments, let us know, what is your target? What is your target right now in the next 12 months? Okay. What is your target? What would you like to earn from your efforts in Etsy? Okay. So if you guys would do that, that would be awesome. All right. So Chris, let's do this. Let's go ahead and let's pull up our first example. And we'll go from there. And then that way there we can kind of look at the numbers and kind of poke holes in it. And we can see, is this a product that potentially could work for a niche if we were in this niche, by the way.
All right.
All right. So here we are. So this here, I use this because, well, this is a niche that will most likely be around forever. Okay. I mean, people are gardening, which also, it's kind of funny that I talked about birdhouses and stuff like this. That's a perfect example of how you could take like a garden niche and then bolt on a bird niche right alongside it, because I know people that are into gardening are probably into birds and bird baths and bird houses and bird watching and all of that stuff. So probably going to have some really nice cohesiveness there. All right. So with that being said, though, this is a great little product for $1.95, right? $1.95. You're like, how are you going to make any money on this? At $1.95, it's literally, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little popsicle sticks cut into little wedges with it. And I don't even know how these were made. But these right here are just for them to put in the ground near their garden items, right? Parsley, peas, cucumbers, whatever. Okay. Chris, let's run the numbers on this. And I think people will be blown away.
Yeah. First thing, I think, Scott, it is only one of these. I don't think it's the bundle because they do have a name option. And they're asking, is it tomatoes, tulips, tomatillos, thyme, Swiss chard, right? So the photo here, a little bit misleading potentially, just at first glance. But if we do a quick listing analysis using Everbee, that should pull up here for us in just a minute. And it's
which, by the way, guys, if you aren't using Everbee, this is definitely the tool that we're going to recommend you use. And also, Chris, before we do dive into those numbers, let me just say this too. This is what we're doing to look at demand is we're not looking at keyword searches. A lot of people are like, oh, but it gets so much searches or so many searches and the competition isn't as much. So I'm going to go after that one because the keyword says that it gets a lot of searches. We don't do that. We find this and then we look at the title and the tags and all that stuff and we'll go through that. But a lot of people go, oh yeah, this product is great. The keyword search on it is like, 50,000 a month. And, it's getting a lot of, a lot of views and there's very little competition. And we're like, okay, but what are the sales? Right. So the sales are what we're looking at here. So go ahead, Chris.
So looking at this, Scott, let's assume that these are one-offs. This could be part of the reason that looking at keyword demand is potentially deceptive, right? Because if you're going to come in and buy one of these, there's a good chance that maybe you're buying 4 or 5. If you're setting up a garden, you're typically not planning just one thing. So if you're going to come buy some herb or plant stakes, let's say people are buying 2 or 3 of these at a time. If we're looking just at the keyword demand, we're only going to see a third of the actual volume potentially, right? Mm-hmm. Because somebody's coming in, they're searching once, they're finding that product, but they're buying 2, 3, 4. And so what we need to do is look at the actual purchase demand, not the keyword demand. The keyword demand is a nice indication that something might be popular, but the purchase demand is what tells us what's actually selling. And in this case, we see they're netting or averaging right around 2,200 sales per month, which for them, assuming they're always selling this at that $1.95, it's about $4,300 a month in revenue as one product. And based on a lot of the numbers that we're seeing, that would be more than enough for most people to hit their goal just with this one product. So what stands out to you when we look at these numbers, and what would you caution people against just by looking at this?
Well, the first thing I'm looking at here is, okay, I'm looking at monthly sales, right? Okay. But I'm also looking at total sales, 56,383. And I'm also looking at, some people would look at this and go, yeah, but they've been selling these for 5 years. Look at that, 63 months. I look at that as, okay, they've just proven that this market is going to be around because they've been selling it consistently for 5 years. And that's 56,383 sales. That means that's how many times someone has went through and purchased something from their shop. The other thing I'm looking at here is their views, 317,000, their favorites, 18,000. Okay. The other thing I'm looking at is that the conversion rate on this thing is pretty darn high, 17.76. That's extremely high. So when someone lands on this listing, there's a 17.76% chance they're going to buy. So out of 100 people, almost 18 people buy, which is crazy. The other thing that I'm noticing is that it's selling for $1.95. It's not, there's no sale. So we know that that's what it is. Now, Chris, let's run the profit calculator on this real quick. Can you go up to the top there where it's listing details? I think it's tucked in the top there. Yeah, right there. And let's just, no, not over there. Yeah, right there. Okay. So if we say sale price, they're not doing a sale price, not doing discounts. The cost of item is, let's say 78 cents, but let's just say that the cost of the item is $1. Let's just put the $1 in there. Okay. Their shipping cost is $4.50. So they're charging for shipping. Okay. Now we got the calculation right there, right? So let's see what we got here. Total fees, total cost. Well, wait a minute here. Shipping costs $4.50. That's what we're charged. Or are we charging? Yeah. Are they charging shipping or no?
That's their estimated shipping cost.
That's why we were wrong. Okay. There we go. Yep. Okay. So there is no, okay. So the shipping on this, are they charging shipping for this? We don't know that.
Let's take a look real quick.
Let's take a look here. Scroll down a little bit. Let's see.
Yeah, so they're charging $5.50.
$5.50 for shipping.
Yep.
Okay. So go back up to the calculator again. Let's pop that in there. So they're charging $5.50, right? So
we said this was $1.
That was $1. Shipping cost for us. Let's say our shipping cost is I mean, I guess you can leave it at $4.50 and then just put $5.50 we're charging, right? So after all fees and everything, they're still making 10.74% net profit, right? So they're making about 80 cents. Doesn't sound like a lot, but here's where it gets interesting. These are customers, and I'm sure they're not just selling this, right? And so people would be like, well, that's not really that great. I mean, so, like, what are they making on that? So let's just say if it's 10% on what did we say the total was for the month, Chris? Are they making how much is the sales?
$21.95.
4,200. 4,200, right? And so let's just say, I mean, out of that, they're making what, $500? Let's just say. Right.
The other thing with that though, Scott, is when we're looking at this calculator, this is assuming they're only buying one, right?
True.
So what starts to happen is, let's just say they sell, let's round that up to 2 because I don't feel like doing the math, right? So we're now at $4. The shipping price was $5.50, right? And the cost of the item is $2 now, right? So now they're making $1.65. If people are buying 3, 4, or 5 of these, that profit margin actually starts going up because the relative cost of shipping comes down. Whether they're shipping 1 unit or 5, it's not like these things weigh anything, right? It's a popsicle stick, like you said. I don't know that it's actually a popsicle stick, but it's essentially that size.
It's not that big.
You're gonna fit 20 of these in a, if it fits, it ships USPS envelope. So that shipping cost is not gonna change. Your net margin is gonna start going up as people buy more than one of these. So that's the other thing I wanted people to be conscious of, right? When we're looking at the sales numbers, we're seeing, yes, they're selling 2,200 units. They're making $4,200 in revenue. And if we do that math just based off 1 unit, then they're only making, what was it, like 10.7%. But as soon as we go to 2 units, that jumps to 17. If we go to 3, it goes even higher because the cost of shipping gets spread out among all of those different products. Does that make sense?
Right. It does. And so but here's the thing. This is a traffic in demand product, right? This is the thing that's bringing people in. But you see a lot of new sellers or even current sellers that don't understand this yet is they are thinking product, profit, right? That's what they're thinking. They're not thinking, how did I acquire that customer and how much did I spend to acquire that customer? You might not have spent anything. You might have got paid $1 to acquire that customer. And now after you've acquired that customer and they buy something else in your shop or one of the other items that we're going to show you, because you might find an item in someone else's shop and it's their home run, right? But they don't sell other things that are related because they don't understand the branding piece. Okay. But what we can do is we can hand pick from all of these other places. And we can say, hey, let's take that product, let's take that product, let's take that product, and let's add those to our shop. And we'll be more cohesive because we understand business and we understand marketing. Okay. Okay, let's move on, Chris. Let's go on to another product that's going to be related. Now we're staying within the garden niche. Okay. That's what we're doing. So if you can pull up the next one and then we can go ahead. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So here's another garden marker, custom handmade plant labels for herb gardening. Okay, so now this could be just, we can do some for a garden, like that's like squash, tomatoes, and we can do other ones that are for herbs. Okay, and so these are kind of fun, kind of playful. These might be for inside if someone's doing an herb thing inside, not outside, because you're not going to really put these out in the garden. You're going to probably put these inside because they're fun and cute. And there's your avocado up top there, Chris, at the very top of this one. So, and these are tiny, right? So $3.67, that's the price after the 30% off. What are these doing, Chris? Let's go ahead and run the numbers on these. And let's see what we get.
Just like those last ones, Scott, this is a single unit based on just looking at the listing. Again, we'd have to dive into the description, but it looks like it's just one of these, just like on the other one. And instead of $1.95, we're now charging $5 for these, or the sale price, which was a little over $3. And it looks like we're averaging just over 500 monthly sales on this. We're making $2,600 in revenue. Now, one thing that is important to keep in mind is that the Etsy calculator here, or the Everbee calculator, is going to calculate that based off the listing price, not off the sales price. So if we wanted to really dive in and be skeptical about this listing, we'd multiply $3.67 times 507 sales, and that would give us a slightly lower revenue number, somewhere in the neighborhood of like $1,600.
Yeah, what are they charging for shipping on this, Chris?
So let's take another quick look down here at the listing and see. Again, $5. So assuming it's that same shipping cost of, that USPS flat rate envelope, we're probably making at least a couple cents on the shipping. It's not going to cost us more than a few bucks to send that envelope most places. So that's pretty much a wash for us, taking a quick look at this.
Yeah, here's the other thing I'm looking at, okay? I'm also looking at, this listing's only 3 months old. All right. And they've done 1,257 sales. They've brought in 2,634, and they've had 507 sales in a month. Okay. Already got 138 reviews on this. The views are 11,467, favorited 467 times. So really, really good. Let's see. The conversion rate's almost 11% on a new listing. That's phenomenal. All right. So again, is this a money-making product? Not necessarily. Yes, it will make you money, but it will consistently bring in traffic that can lead people into your other things in your shop. So, and this is the thing, right? Like, you might be in the garden niche and you might be like, well, I sell this, I don't know, this apron, right, for gardeners, but the apron doesn't really get searched as much as things like this. So, but if you had a garden apron and then you led someone in with these things, there's a good chance they might be interested in that, right? They're your ideal customer. And that's what we want. And then when we build our email list, we're going to be able to then say, hey, I noticed that you like herbs, right? And you like gardening. Check out our cute little apron, right? That we created for Mother's Day or for grandma, or maybe now you can even sprinkle in where you've got a garden apron, but yet you have the grandkids on it as flowers, as we've all seen that those things sell well, but you don't want to compete out there because it's so competitive, but you can still create them, put them in your shop. And when someone comes over, they're going to land in your shop and they're going to see what you offer. So these are lead in type products with very good, consistent demand.
Now, Scott, you just said something, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because I know if we don't bring it up, someone will, as a reason not to launch this product.
Yeah.
Right. So you said really good, consistent demand, and Everbee is showing us estimated monthly sales, right? That's an average across the time that the listing has been around. In this case, 3 months. In the other case, 5 years. Right. But is this something that would be hyper seasonal? And is that a concern for you? Meaning you'd get all your sales in February, March, April, maybe some throughout the fall for people who live, in warmer climates, but you're going to have the vast majority of that right before spring really happens. Is that a concern for you with launching a product like this?
I don't believe so, but we would, again, want to look at that one listing that's been out there for 5 years and go, okay, let's divide that, by the months, and let's kind of see. I don't believe so, because I think a lot of people still do gardening all year long that live not in the Northeast. They're not in upstate New York. You're going to be gardening, but it's going to be inside. You're going to have now some type of gardening area that's inside that might be growing herbs with maybe it's just plants, and maybe you have a plant, one of those lights, for the plants. And then you have your little stakes that you're putting in there. So there's all of these different things that I think still would be year round. Are you going to get a lift in the spring? Probably. Are you going to get a lift in the summer? Probably. Maybe the fall. But maybe mainly spring and summer, I would think, would be a lift, but you're still going to get it throughout the entire year. And we've already looked at the in-demand product because of the numbers, right? And that's how we base this off of that. And that's why we're using a tool like Everbee. And I just put that up on the screen. If you guys want to try it for free, you can. And yes, that's an affiliate link. And yes, you will buy us a cup of coffee if you upgrade to the pro version, which we're using. But you can see the data that we're getting. Did you see, though, we did not even look yet, which we will. We didn't even look yet at the keywords. We didn't say oh, look at this. It's a great keyword. Garden marker, custom handmade plant labels, right? Or herbal gardening gift, or garden stake vegetable marker, or herb markers, plant tags. We didn't even look at any of that stuff because we don't care about searches that are happening with a tool that says, because even Everbee has said, listen, we're giving you a guess from data that we have, but it's not actual, searches that are being pulled in from the API because you can't. No one can. Google doesn't let you do that. YouTube doesn't let you do that. They're all guesstimates. Sales numbers are a little bit easier to actually nail down. And now what we're doing is we're looking at that versus just searches that are kind of vanity in a sense, because it's kind of like, oh, yeah, look at the number. It's great. It gets you all excited. But then, you look at it and you're like, oh, it gets a lot of searches, but actually that search, I'm not finding any products that are selling that much. Right. So we want to start with sales. Sales are the ultimate for us.
Even if those keyword numbers were accurate, even if Etsy said 500 people search for this and that number came directly from Etsy, it would be irrelevant, because the only thing that matters is, are they matching the search intent of that search to a product that somebody is buying? If 500 people are searching for it, great. If 5 of those people end up buying a product, that's the number that we care about, right? And Sherry wanted to know, Scott, if you're not looking at keywords first, how did you find these products and the other ones that we're going to show? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing that you would do is you go to the search, right? You go to the search in Etsy. And again, though, we're not sitting here. I'm imagining you've already established your niche. Like, you've already done the niche research, right? You've already found that there's products in here selling. You know that these products sell well in Etsy, but also off of Etsy. And so you've already done that. Once we do that, now it's a matter of just going through when you're first starting and just putting in garden or gardening, right? And then let the auto search come back. The auto search that Etsy's giving you, that is what I would go by as far as, okay, let's see what this is doing, right? And Chris, maybe you can just pull up the search tab real quick, and maybe we can just do that real quick, just so we can actually show you guys that process. So if you just put in garden, just put in garden and just right there. So garden flower gift, garden decor, garden essentials, right? And we get the numbers here, right? We get those numbers, but let's just do garden and then put in, and then put a space and then put in marker. And let's just see, I'm just curious, right? So look at garden markers only says it gets 927 searches. Okay. So is that a keyword that we're like, if we rank for that, we're going to be able to sell all that stuff? Or, oh, there's got to be a lot. No, that's not it. Right. The other way you could do this too now. So again, this is kind of like the process, right? I was just going to go there. Yeah. Herb marker, right? Look at 350, right?
So looking at those two combined, Scott, that is fewer sales than exists just on the first listing that we looked at. That was like 2,200, if I remember correctly. It was over 2,000 a month. Yeah. Right? So they're doing keyword estimation, which gives us a little bit of directionality to say, okay, garden marker probably has more volume than herb marker. So if we want to rank number 1 for something, it's going to be garden marker. But what we actually care about are not the number of searches, it's the number of purchases. And that's why I said, if let's say somebody's buying 2, 3, 4 of those, we might see that the search volume is like a third of what the demand actually is. And in this case, that math just happens to work out. We're doing this on the fly, right? We're talking 800 versus 2,300. It's almost a third of what it would be in terms of demand just on that one product. But we see, Scott, on this second product that we looked at, there's another few hundred sales. And I know we had one other one that we wanted to look at here. If you want me to pull that up.
Yeah, pull that up
really quickly, just to see, because again, different style, but the same product. So we've now seen almost 3,000 monthly sales for some of these without looking at some of the, yet again, higher priced competition. We see this is 26.25 plus. So when we run Everbee, it's important to keep in mind, again, that it's going to base it off that 26.25. And so if that's a deceptive price, and we see this, Scott, a lot of times with clothing, where people will list like a baby zero, right? Or like a onesie or something for $1, and they won't actually be selling it. You have to double check these numbers just to make sure. But let's just assume that $26 is what they're selling at. Everybody's showing us that they're making about 91 sales a month, and they're making, again, $2,400 in revenue. So fewer sales, about a fifth the number of sales as the last listing that we looked at, but very similar revenue numbers. Why? Because they're selling at a higher price point, right? Here, in this case, they're selling bundles, and you can buy 20, 40, or 80 of them. They're making them from copper versus what appeared to be like a 3D print or a laser cut wood. So they're going to have a higher material cost, but they're seeing similar revenues. What if anything, Scott, really sticks out to you here?
Yeah. Well, first off, it's 1 month old. That's the first thing, right? And I'm like, okay, 91 sales. I also look at this as like it's a more expensive product, right? So less sales, but yet it's still making a good amount. But this one here would just be another validation piece. So if I found the first one, the second one we shared with you, and then I find this one, I'm like, okay, these guys are competing and they're selling them for a lot more expensive. It's just a different type and people are still buying it. Okay, great. Now, would I not sell those other ones? No, I'd probably sell those and I'd sell a more, I guess a set or whatever here. And maybe metal if I could get metal, or maybe just a different material, or maybe they're a little bit bigger. And then I would try to increase the price of that and offer that as well. But would this one be driving as much traffic as the others? No. But I would still want to have that in the shop. But I'm looking at this just from, okay, a month old and it's had 8,824 views, right? And it's been favorited 401 times. That tells me there's demand. Okay. So we just found 3 very similar products. That's how we're looking at the demand to see, okay, is there enough people that are purchasing these on a regular basis? And it appears that there are. So that's what we're looking at. But again, this would come down to, okay, how much money are you trying to make? Is this going to be one of the products that's going to help you achieve your target? Or is it going to be a product that's going to lead people in to buy one of your other products? So for example, this might not be our main product. We're going to put it in our shop, right? But we're going to have those other products that are going to drive over, and then people could buy this. And this is where you would then say, okay, I could sell 90 of these a month and make $23.89. Again, after fees and all of that stuff. Like, what am I making? Maybe you're making $1,000, right? Maybe you're making $800. Okay. Well, let's say you only wanted to make $3,000 a month. There's one product that could help you get there. Right. So that's kind of the process on how we're trying to validate the demand. And hopefully this helps. So Chris, where do you want to go from here? You want to go to and show another product?
Yeah. So the process, Scott, that you and I would typically go through is we might come in and look at the shop, right? Yep. And because we did a little bit of research in advance, we have some other ideas. But if you are in this niche, right, you're going to understand the other things that people need. One way that you can find that, if you're not aware of this, is by coming in, looking at all 3 of the shops and saying, hey, what else are they selling that works for gardeners? Or if it's a niche you're actually interested in, you actually participate in, you will do what we did, which is essentially say, all right, what else is there that we can do? And so we started with markers, and then we said, what's kind of the next step up from there, Scott? And in this case, it's something more like garden signs, which in some cases are going to be very similar to those markers. And in some cases, they're going to be huge or for later on in the season. Those first sets of markers that we looked at were perfect for like herb gardens where things are going to get this big, right? Maybe you let your chives get to 6-8 inches before you cut them off. But if we're looking at some other things, then maybe we want to look at some taller signs or different signs or other uses of things. And so this is the first one we found.
Hey, Chris, before you do that, before you run that number, I want to go back one. I want you to go back to that shop real quick, because I want to make sure that we highlight this. Okay, so this shop right here. So we were led here from that one product, right? So the one product we saw, and then from there, we go, okay, let's go and look at their shop. Chris, would you run the numbers on this shop? Let's go ahead and try to see if there's anything else that this shop is selling that potentially could help us know if, there's something else. So then we would sort it by monthly sales, which it looks like it is, but do it again just to make sure. And we can go ahead. Yeah. So, okay. So that is their top. And then they've got another one though, that's getting 22 monthly sales. And it looks like it's another similar one, but it's in silver. So one's copper and one's silver. Okay. And so, okay, well, maybe we add different color now. We do. So all I'm trying to show you guys is like, you can get clues from other products that a shop is selling if they're selling related products. Most shops you're going to find are going to be like a sign shop, and they're going to sell these, but they're going to sell signs for other things. But what they're doing for us is allowing us to see, okay, this sign is doing really well. I think we should go and build more stuff around that. And that's kind of what we're doing here. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to show that process. So you can go back to that other one, Chris, and we'll go ahead and kind of run the numbers on that one.
Yeah. So looking at this, Scott, the other thing that stands out to me is this buy more, save more, right? Which is an option that started to pop up more and more. If you have bulk pricing set, it will allow you to have that on your listing for people to be able to buy more than one thing and see the discount that they're going to get. And in this case, they even say in the title, discount for 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25, right? So looking at these larger signs, they're selling 19 a month and making $1,400-ish. Again, depending on the size and the number of them that people are buying. Right. But we're seeing even at the larger size, if this is something we'd want to add in, right? You might do something like this for corn, which is something that's going to grow tall, right? There's the farmer's cliche saying knee high by the 4th of July, right? If you're using little tiny signs for your corn at this time of year, chances are you're not going to know what it is just by looking out at it in your garden until it gets to that stage. And if you want to know as you're moving through it exactly what it is, you're going to want something taller like this. Be very easy to add into a shop if you are on the garden side of this. Anything that really sticks out to you on that one?
But Chris, this wouldn't be the main 3 to 5 products that are driving the traffic, right? Because we're only looking at 19 sales a month potentially, right? So this would be, yes, if you sell 19, you're only selling 19, depending on how much the cost of goods is, you might be making $700 to $800 on just those 19 sales. Okay. So again, another nice to have in the shop, but it wouldn't be one of the 3 to 5. The 3 to 5 in this case, from what I'm seeing, would be those smaller markers, right? That would be one of the ones that you're like, that's getting a lot of sales, a lot of traffic. Let's go ahead and let's make that our one main lead-in product. And what I mean by lead-in is like the one that, gets that kind of traffic and sales. That's the one that you would probably run paid ads to. That's the one that you would want to really lean into because there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah. And then I know we had 2 other ones that popped up when we started looking at signs, because then we said, okay, if people are into marking their vegetables, are they also into marking their garden? And this is just the product that the process that we go through here. And we found this one here, Scott, that was a custom hummingbird metal garden sign, Olivia's garden in this case. And we see that it's starting at $39.90 on sale.
Yep.
When we run the numbers on this is something that would really fall for me into that 3 to 5 hero products, if you want to call them that, that are driving demand. Again, are we going to sell more of these in the early spring? Probably. But what we're looking at is the average sales over the course of the year. Do I care if I'm selling 338 these in December or 600 in February? No, because at the end of the day, I'm making the same amount of money. I just have to plan for that. So looking at these, if we're assuming that $67 sales price, which is their listing price here, they're selling it at 50% off though. So we have to kind of assume when we're looking at these, Scott, that they're always selling it at that sale price. Whether they are or not is irrelevant. But when we're doing the demand, it's important to do that. So we're just going to cut this estimated monthly revenue basically in half. I'm not going to do the actual math here. We're just going to call it 50% off, right? So around $12,000 a month. On 337 sales. Scott, is there anything here that really sticks out to you beyond the fact that this has been around for a year and they seem to be selling 300 a month pretty consistently?
No, the only thing I would say is, and it's really interesting, is number one, custom is in the title. Okay. So it's a custom. And then also hummingbird. So hummingbird isn't even birds like in general. It's not like a generalization. It's like, it's a type of bird, which also then would get my wheels turning and go, okay, is there custom, cardinal metal garden, decor, right? I'd start going down that route. And you see, that's kind of how my mind goes. And like, could I stumble on something else? But I look at this as like 12 months old. Wow. And it's done, 4,000 sales already. That's pretty good. Right now, this could be one of the 3 to 5 products, but it also could be one of the ones that gets you to your target, because it looks like this has a pretty good margin. I know metal signs generally are going to have a pretty good, and even at selling this at whatever it is, like the 30 some dollars. And I don't know what they're charging for shipping, if they are charging for shipping. Like, look at the size too, Chris. I think there's different sizes.
Yeah. So their base sign, Scott, looks like it's 12 inches. And that's what they're charging $39 for. So they have 12, 16, 20, 24, 27, 32, and 39. And then they have a few different colors. And the colors actually can change the price by a few dollars as well, right? So it just depends on what you're looking for. The larger signs, that 100 centimeter, 39-inch version of this, they're selling at $300.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other thing that we need to keep in mind. Assuming they sell one of those a month, that massively changes this estimated monthly revenue.
Yep.
Are most people going to be buying the standard stock 12-inch version of this? Probably. And so that's what we want to base our estimates on. But when we go to sell this, we're going to find out what that distribution actually looks like. And this revenue number won't go down from there because we're basing it on that lowest number, but it could very easily go up from there. If they sell 2 or 3 of those, we're talking another $600-700 depending on the size and color variation that people are choosing. So that revenue can change drastically for something that isn't any more work for us.
Yeah. And so the one thing I want to key in here real quick though is, well, there's 2 things. Scroll down. So this is where then we would do some analysis on like, okay, what are the keywords that they're targeting for tags? So people are always like, I'm going to look at a keyword search tool and I'm going to use that to do my analysis on keywords that are being searched for. This is what you want to do. You want to look at a product that's proven to sell. And then you want to see what tags are they selling or are they using, right? I don't care that it says volume and competition. That doesn't matter to me. I just want to know what they're using because whatever they're using is working. So I'm going to pay attention to this and then go up in the title, Chris. And then let's look at, okay. So, and then we're going to break down the title. We're going to, okay, hummingbird, metal garden decor, bird with stakes, garden sign, flower design, personalized garden sign, custom. So there's a lot of repetitiveness there, right? But I'm looking at custom. That's a keyword we want to use, right? Hummingbird, metal, garden, and probably decor or sign. Okay. And then anything else we can throw in the tags. But that's what we're looking at. The other thing I wanted to see here, Chris, is if you go in the reviews, sometimes you can see what sizes people are buying. And then you can start to say, oh, more people are buying the larger one. See, okay, so the was a bit smaller than expected, but it's totally fine, someone said. Okay, they must have bought the 12-inch. Let's see if there's any other people that are saying what they bought. Great gift for my mother or for Mother's Day. Let's see here. Nothing. And again, this is the process, guys, right? Like I'd be going through here to see if there's anybody that I can see that are buying a certain size or a certain version. But it doesn't look like right now with the little bit of searching that we're doing that we're finding anything. But that's what I would do.
The other thing that really sticks out when you go through the reviews like this, Scott, is you start to understand how people are using this. So if you're following the rest of what you and I talk about in terms of doing some list building, right? Building your business outside of just being on the Etsy platform, we would now know, okay, next year before Mother's Day, this is something that's going in an email to my list. Because if they like my stuff, everybody in the reviews is saying this was a great gift for Mother's Day. I'm going to just bring that up next year as something people might want to give to their friends, to their loved ones for Mother's Day, right? She loved her garden sign with the hummingbird and the butterfly. The sign was very well done. Awesome, right? If we can mine any information out of here, that's going to be useful for us moving forward. So,
and if you look at the photos, Chris, if you look at some of those photos, you might see the size, right? So you can kind of tell, okay, there you go. Size 20-inch. See, go to another one.
32.
Yeah. 32. This is perfect. There's a 16. Right? There's a 20, 16, 24. And this is perfect. 16, right, guys? So all I'm doing, we're just thumbing through these images and we're seeing the sizes. So we know that not everyone's just buying the 12. A lot of people are buying 16, 18, 20. There's some 12s.
So this one sticks out to me, right? They bought the 12-inch sign and they said it's smaller than I expected. Well, yes, that will happen when you buy the 12-inch one. Right. And so this is not the seller's fault, but it is something that we want to keep in mind. There's the potential here to upsell into a different product. If we're following up with our customers, we see somebody comes in, most people, it looks like, and Scott, we could probably rerun these numbers using the 16-inch pricing as average, because some people are buying 12, some people are buying 24. But if you see an order come in for 12, say, hey, just so you're aware, this is the 12-inch sign. Here's what that looks like in real life. And then you put the 24-inch one behind it and you take a picture of both of them. You go, I'm more than happy to send you the 12-inch. I just want to make sure you know what this looks like. Right. And then maybe they are okay with the 12-inch, or maybe they pay you that little bit of extra and they upgrade to the 24. You get that extra profit out of that sale. But that's what we will learn by looking through things like the reviews.
Yep. Yep.
20,
No, this is great.
2012, 32.
32.
Right? So
how much is the
if we look at
32?
the size here, so the 16 starts at 54. The 32 is 159 based on the sale price.
So those numbers, those sales numbers we're looking at, they're actually much higher than that, I believe. Right? It's because most people are buying something bigger than the 12-inch. So again,
we also
know what you're doing. Yeah.
Right? Looking at this is the lowest price that they've had in the last 60 days or more. So we know that even if we're using that $39 number, that the revenue is higher than that when we average that out over the course of the year, right? But when we're looking at these numbers, we always want to calculate worst case scenario. So they're selling all of these at $39.90. What does that revenue look like coming into our business if we start to then eke that up to the 16-inch or the 20-inch or the 32-inch? Then that number looks even better in our favor. But we always want to calculate that based on the worst case. So if we didn't see something like this, we'd obviously assume they're all $39.90. Let's just use that as the foundation for this. By looking through the reviews, we now know our revenue is going to be higher than that.
Yep. All right. So we're going to keep moving on here. We got a few more to show you, a couple more, I think. And then we got a couple other things we want to talk about. We also want to share with you, if you're struggling to get views, we've got something on that. So with that being said, though, couple things, okay, and we're going to keep going here, is number one, if you want more of this, of us digging in, we actually did another training where we actually find 3 products that are doing $1,000 plus, following a very similar process, but just different examples. If you would like that, just put products in the comments, just type type products in the comments, and then we'll go ahead and make sure that we get you or we'll get you access to that. All right. I think it's about 90 minutes. So if you want access to that training, again, another deep dive going through more examples, just put products in the comments and we'll make sure that we get you that. If you are not using Everbee, that is the only tool that we are using for product research. Okay. And pretty much for everything, even our email, Everbee email is what we're using, but primarily, like right now, everything that we're running through, and you can see by the examples, we're using Everbee. So if you would like to try it for free, you can just go to brandcreators.com/Everbee. Yes, you'll buy us a cup of coffee, and yes, we would appreciate that. But you get to use the tool, and you get to to look at all of the data that we're pulling in from right here. And also that other training I just mentioned, we use Everbee in there. You can see us using that. We use filters and kind of filtering things down. But we go a little bit more deeper into the filters as far as how to use them to sort through faster. But if you would like access to that, make sure that you, number one, grab Everbee. You can get 10 free searches a month. Again, that's brandcreators.com/Everbee. And then make sure that you get that training for free. In the comments, just put products, and we'll make sure that we send that over to you. The other thing is, before we do keep going here, Chris, if you guys are enjoying this, you guys want more of this, go ahead and let us know that in the comments as well. And also like this, hit that like button. And I don't know, if you haven't subscribed yet, you might want to subscribe because we've got a lot of cool stuff going on this channel, which actually tomorrow we got a brand new Etsy shop audit, which is going to be being published tomorrow. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. All right. With that all being said, Chris, let's move on. That was a great example right there. It showed a lot of potential there to be an in-demand product, but also to be a money-making product.
Yeah. And I think this next one is one of my new favorite Etsy products because I identify with this 100%. This is the grow, damn it, sign. If my father was a gardener, this would be in his garden.
Yep.
Right. 100% without a doubt. Most likely in that color, given his university affiliation. Taking a look at these numbers, Scott, again, assuming that we're actually selling this around $20, not $24, the revenue number is going to be a little bit lower. The reason I say that, they're running a 15% sale right now. But again, we're assuming they're only selling that smallest size or smallest height, depending on how they're measuring it, and that they're selling it at that discounted price. We're still talking around $1,600 a month here. They're selling 77 of these, not quite the same volume, probably because it speaks to a different gardening demographic, right? This is more of like your urban gardening, your thug gardening people than happy grandma in the garden, which that other hummingbird sign would apply to. But it just, yet again, more proof that we have demand for garden signs, different things. And if this is something we offer in our shop, if we're in the gardening niche, then it's something that has the potential to sell. Again, probably not going to be that high demand product. This is not the first thing out of those 3 to 5 products that we're going to launch, but it's something that we're going to want to keep in mind as another product we can add into the store to pick up another $1,400, $1,500, $1,600 a month in revenue.
Yeah. And, again, like are people searching grow, damn it? No, probably not. You could probably do a better job even coming up with other keywords maybe that would drive a different type of person here. But in the very beginning, right now, we're just looking at like, okay, this would go good in our shop. So it's probably something that we would want to do. This is also something I think would go really well on Facebook. Like if you were running a Facebook ad to gardeners and you had something like this would go over great. And I think it would be a great gift. Like, I don't even think they have gift anywhere in this title or anything. And it's surprising to me because I think this would be a great gift. I don't see gift. Oh yeah.
Here you go. Here's an interesting little tag. Garden curse words, right?
There you
go. Grow damn it sign. They're putting their own things. And this may be a saying in the gardening community. I don't know because I'm not a gardener, right? But it's something that we would want to keep an eye out for. I think the other thing, Scott, that really sticks out to me with this listing, no offense to whoever's listening this is, but these photos are hot garbage, right? This is the exact opposite of what we would suggest you do. And if we look at the higher converting ones, that one we looked at that was like 17, almost 18%, the only thing we'd have to do to sexify this just a little bit is put one of these in a garden in the real world and make that the main image. We're going to help increase that conversion rate. But it looks like, Scott, when people get to this listing, they're still converting over 4%, right? So when they get somebody to the listing, they're doing a great job of converting.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this shop has been around a while. It looks like, I mean, this listing is 109 months old. So it's been around a minute, as the kids would say nowadays. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, there you go. Okay. There it is in action, right? 8x4.
So I like that they called the 8x4 their classic size.
Yeah.
And it's in the rusted steel color, which is kind of cool. 11, 8x4, right? So in this case, it looks like the 8x4 is their top seller. So building our expectations off of that, that's probably what we're looking at in terms of revenue, right? That number is going to be a lot closer for us.
Yep. All right, cool. Let's move on to another one, Chris.
Yeah. So then we said, all right, that's enough with signs, Scott. What else do we have that we can take a look at? What else do people need, or how else do people show off their love for the niche? Well, if you're into gardening, you already have all your herbs labeled. There's still a chance that you need something else, and you probably need a hand in the garden. You don't want to have to haul all your gardening tools out there. So what about like a gardening tote bag or a gardening bag? And there's 2 different ways that we could go with this, Scott. You can look at a tote bag that is gardening themed, probably another product that you want to look at. In this case, we chose to look at a garden tote that is specifically built for hauling your gardening stuff around. So we didn't even dive into the other side of this, which is showing it off outside of your garden. This is just something people would use inside of their garden. And again, we see 2 people bought this in the last 24 hours. It's on sale right now for $35.99. That's running through July 24th. So we're going to have to keep that in mind when we're looking at this revenue. Obviously, we just multiply $35.99 times 60, and that'll get us what the current revenue is based on that sales price. This is going to be based off the $45 list price. Nothing wrong with that, right? Almost $2,700 a month from this garden tote. What stuck out to you, Scott, about this one?
Well, number one, it's been around for 59 months, so almost 5 years. And then we have 3,747 sales, and then 60 a month, right? So, I mean, this here, my garden, personalized garden tote. They repeated garden twice. They didn't need to do that. And tools, gifts for her, gardening gifts, Christmas gifts, Mother's Day gifts. Like, so they kind of just threaded it with gifts, right? I think this could do better, but it's still doing pretty good how it is. All right. I think the image is good. But I'm just looking at it like average conversion again is like almost 5%. Like 100 people see this, 5 people buy. Like that's really good numbers. So I look at this favorited 3,388 times, 745 reviews. I see this as not being a really big driver, although it could be, but I still don't think it's as much as like a sign or one of those signs or, even the one that we found that, the one that had all the different variations of sizes. I think that one would be more of an in-demand product. But this one here is in demand, but it's not going to give us the high traffic number, but it is going to help us hit our target. So it still does satisfy that. I like
it. And I'd say, looking at this, there's nothing wrong with this product. If we're selling into the gardening niche, this is definitely something we want to add. The higher demand version of this may be by just looking at gardening bags, and it wouldn't be the thing that's for gardening, but it would be a bag that shows off their love of gardening. Right. And so along those lines, Scott, we decided to look at some gardening swag, right? Just to see what some of the non-gardening specific things are, but ways that people show off their love of gardening. And one of the things that we found was this Dogs and Plants shirt, right? So obviously to buy this, you not only have to love plants, but you also have to love dogs. And we see, again, this is on sale. This is currently listed at 50% off. It's their biggest sale in the last 60 days. But if we take a look at this, even assuming that 50% off, this is driving another $1,200 a month in revenue for them. If everybody's buying that, smallest size at the 50% discount, this is another $1,200, $1,300 a month in revenue that we're seeing from something that anybody could add into their shop if they're into the gardening niche.
Yeah, and the thing I really wanted to kind of highlight here is like, this is exactly how you took one niche and then kind of brought in something from the other niche, right? So you're not in pets, but yet people that have plants probably have pets. Not all of them, but some do. Right. And so like you could have dogs and plants, you could have cats and plants, you could do another one, cats and plants, and so you could play off of that. So this to me was just another example of how you can kind of tap in. It's like we've talked about before, like if you're in, if you want to get into the wedding niche, but it's very, very competitive, you could maybe start with something that was aligned with weddings, or your product could serve in the wedding market, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're in the wedding niche. So it's a way to kind of draw from that shoulder niche, as we call them. But I thought that this was a good example of doing that. Again, a pretty good product for a decent margin. And also it could add to the products that are in the shop that, yes, these are still like, this has been out for 17 months and it's sold 176. So not like crazy numbers, but it's selling over one a day. Okay. So, I mean, that's a nice, steady, right? Like, product that's in your shop that could help you get to your target number. So yeah, I like it. Was that it of our examples, Chris?
That was it for the examples.
Okay, cool. I think that was good. And guys, let us know in the comments, was this helpful? And would you like us to do more of these? Because we do enjoy these as well. And maybe what we can do is we can even have you even say, hey, what niche would you like us to kind of dig into? And maybe try to build 3 to 5 products in that niche. And if you do have any of those, drop them in the comments right now and let us know. And maybe we'll come back and do another round of this. But if you want to see more of this, we've already done a live training that was recorded, and you can get access to it if you just in the comments, just put products, and we'll make sure that we send you over access to that. I believe it was about 90 minutes. We went and found our mission on that one was to find 3 products that were doing $1,000 per month. And we succeeded on that. So if you're interested in that, just put products in the comments and we'll go ahead and make sure that we get you a copy. And then also another little shameless plug for Everbee. That is the tool that we use. It's the only tool that we've used. It's the one that we use every single day when we're doing our research. If you're not yet using it, we recommend you use it. They're a great company. They're always evolving. They're always making their data better. So make sure that you check it out if you haven't done so already. brandcreators.com/Everbee. And you can get access and you can try it for free. And when you do upgrade to the growth plan, which I recommend you do, then yes, we would get paid a small little, like, and someone put it in the comments and said, boy, that cold brew, that could be expensive. You're right. It's like $5 now for a cold brew. It's insane for not even that big. So yes, that would help with the cold brew. So we appreciate that. Yeah. Cold brew ain't cheap. All right. So Chris, let's go ahead and move on. Was there any questions that came in or anything we needed to address before we do move on to our next topic, which has to do with getting views, getting traffic?
Yeah, I think everybody's loving this. People are saying, hey, it's great. that you're doing these? Can you do more? They're giving us a lot of examples of different niches they'd like to see us dive into. Some are niches, some are just products, and we can have that conversation another time. But Scott, I know the next thing we wanted to talk about was, okay, so you found those 3 to 5 products, your shop is humming along really well, and your traffic falls off a cliff. Why? What happened? What does that look like? And I know you had a bunch of things you wanted to dive into around that. So let's just jump straight into that.
Let's do it. So you probably are frustrated because you're not getting views. And that's very typical. I'm going to give you 5 things that you can run through right now. And this will help you see why your views are not there. And is it you? Is it your products? So with that being said, let's just go ahead and dig in. I've got a little checklist here that I want to run you through. And that is the very first thing that I would do is I would see, are you the only one that's experiencing low views, or is everyone? And I don't mean everyone in every niche. I mean your niche, your product, because if you've done your product research, then you're probably saying, okay, I'm getting, or I should be getting traffic, but I'm not getting traffic, or I'm not getting sales. And you're thinking to yourself, what's the problem? Or maybe you were getting views. Okay. Maybe you were getting views, and then all of a sudden your views started to plummet. And you're like, why? So why don't you go and look at your competition, the competition that you might have already done your product research against, and go see, are they getting views? Are they getting sales? Because it might just be no one's getting them right now because it's not in season, or maybe it's just not that time of year. Maybe you didn't realize it's a seasonal item. And this way here, you're not trying to get traffic and trying to get more views when there's no views to be had, or at least more. And so that's the very first thing that I would do. Number 1 is I would check to see if anyone else is experiencing this. And then the way that I would do it is I would use Everbee. And if you're not using Everbee, I recommend it. Go to brandcreators.com/Everbee and try it. But use that tool and just look at the data and look at the views, look at the sales. Are you the only one? Okay. So that's the first thing. Okay. The next thing that I would do is I would make sure that I'm running a sale, but not just a 10% off sale. If you've run a sale for 10%, make it 20%. If you've been running it for 20, make it 30. Okay. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, first off, if you're not running sales, the first thing you want to do is run a sale. And the reason why is because then you are going to start showing up in these different placements on Everbee. Okay. Or on Everbee, on Etsy. That's what you're going to do. Okay. So you're going to start showing up because Etsy's going to have this little area over here that they're running sales. And they're like, hey, are you shopping for a gift? Check out our sale items. Boom. You're going to now be placed in that because you're running a sale. If you're not running a sale, you won't be placed there. Okay. The other thing is Etsy's been known to send out emails and say, hey, we're running a special 30% off sale or a 20% off sale. And the other thing is here is if Etsy is running a promotion and they invite you into that promotion, you probably want to get yourself involved because they're going to put some traffic push behind that. Okay. So that's the second thing I would do is I would make sure that I'm running a sale if you're not already. And if you are running one, maybe increase it a little bit or match whatever Etsy is promoting at the time. All right. The next thing is, if you're not yet running Etsy ads, I would turn on Etsy ads. This is another thing, not just to see traffic come back in, right? But it's also to validate that there's traffic there. Because let's just say that you're not getting any views and you're not running Etsy ads and you're like, well, yeah, I mean, I should be getting traffic. I should be getting, views coming in. Well, you're going to know almost instantly, because you're going to run those Etsy ads and the next day you're going to be able to see how many views you were getting or how many impressions, meaning how many times was your thing searched for and how many times did you pop up in a search? You're going to see all that. Okay. And that's another way to see, are there views out there or aren't they? Now, if you're not getting views when you're doing that, or you're not getting impressions, that also could be a problem with your keywords that you're targeting. But I'm assuming that you already had some pretty good traffic and then it just dropped. And now you're trying to figure out why. So again, using Etsy ads, that'll tell you, okay, is there still traffic there? Because if you're running Etsy ads, you're willing to pay for it and you're not getting views and you were getting views before, then it's probably that there just isn't traffic there right now. So that's the third thing I would do. Okay. Then from there, I'm going to dig in deeper into that ads data. Okay. And what I mean by that is I'm going to also drill into what keywords are getting impressions, that are getting traffic or getting clicks. And then from there, I'm going to say, okay, am I optimized fully for those? Because we're talking organic, right? You're talking like, I'm not getting organic views. Okay. How do we fix that? Maybe we're just not targeting a wide enough net of keywords. Well, running Etsy ads is going to expose all of these keywords that you're technically, okay, getting ranked for or indexed for, but then you can start to say, okay, maybe I need to put more emphasis on these keywords. One other little side tip here, I would say, if your item is giftable and you don't have gift somewhere in the title or somewhere in a tag, I would definitely make sure that you add that, because that could give you an increased traffic from having gift, because Etsy's pushing gift mode like crazy. All right. And then the last thing is, and this is only going to work if you have an email list, is I would run an email promo. Okay. If you're not yet building a list, I definitely recommend that you do build a list. And if you need help with that, I have a free resource. If you just in the comments, just put email, I'll go ahead and make sure that you get that guide, and it shows you how to build a list in your niche. So this way here, you can run promos. Okay. Because if your views are down, then a good way to get traffic is to drive your own traffic. Okay. And the other thing is maybe your ranking slipped because your sales slipped. Well, this is another way for you to increase your sales, increase your rankings, because Etsy, one of their ranking factors is sales. And so if your sales have dropped, your views might have dropped. Okay. And this is another way that we can kind of, inject some sales into Etsy from our own efforts. And Etsy wants us to drive our own traffic because, well, they give us the share and save link now, and then we can track it. The other thing is with Everbee, you can use Everbee email. Another reason why I'm a huge fan of Everbee is they have that built right in. So if you want to try that out as well, and they have a free version of that too, just go to brandcreators.com/Everbee. And again, you can sign up and try that. But I would definitely make sure that you get on. It's a huge opportunity to drive your own traffic and do the things that I just mentioned. All right. So that's 5 different things that I would be looking at and that I would be trying to implement to fix the views that are coming in currently on your listing. All right, Chris, anything did I leave out there?
You mentioned it, and I think these really break down into 3 categories. One, is there a problem with the traffic?
Oops, where'd Chris go? There he is.
Kicked me out of the studio, man. You just booted me right out because I said you missed something.
You get up there, boy.
It really breaks down into kind of 3 different phases, right? Is there something wrong with the traffic? And you mentioned taking a look at other people's listings. I think that's a great place to look. But the other place, Scott, that people need to look once they've looked at their ads to see, am I getting the same number of impressions? Once they've looked at that beta search report to see, am I getting the same number of searches, is potentially something like Google Trends, right? Is it December? My traffic is down. What is it? Well, if we're selling garden signs, probably the fact that it's December, right? So if we take a look at this, we can see that our traffic is going to ramp way up in May. It's going to start ramping down, and then it's going to ramp way up in April and May of the next year. If that's what we start with, and we start with something like that, just to say, hey, what's the overall interest in this? Did that go up or down? That's a good place to start. We then have to look at conversion rate. Okay. Is it something that is happening that my competitors are doing? And that's where using Everbee and diving in and looking at your competitors' listings is a really good idea. Because if they're out converting you, even if you're running ads, even if you're optimized for all of the right keywords, then you're going to start to see impressions decrease. Why? Etsy's job, both in ads and in organic, is to show the results that are the most likely to lead to a sale. So if we're less likely to lead to a sale, our impressions are going to come down, even if that demand remains the same. If both of those, we pass both of those checks, right? We're converting the same as our competitors. The demand hasn't really changed. Then another way that we can start to ramp that back up is by driving traffic, by turning those Etsy ads on, by driving traffic from our email list. That's something we have control over at any point. So if we think about it in those 3 phases, I think that makes a lot of sense. First, just starting with, did the demand change because the season changed? Then is there something that I can do on my listing to make sure Etsy puts me front and center? Am I using the right keywords? Is my listing converting, right? Once we've squared those away, then we're left with driving some additional traffic to ramp up sales on that, whether that's through our email list or Etsy ads. And Sherry wanted to know, she said, if you sell an item that isn't currently in ads, would you activate it for them just to get that additional boost? Or is there something else that you would consider? Typically, I would say if you're selling a product, put it in ads and see if it sells more, right? Let the data tell you not to advertise that product versus the other way around. And then she also was asking Scott about the discount strategy that we've talked about. Something here, we're running a sale or increasing the discounts. Is there a time or place where I can run only a 15% or 20% discount versus 25, 30, or 50, like some of the examples that we were looking at? Is there any rhyme or reason to how we're pricing those discounts?
Yeah, I mean, always, bigger is better, right? For the sales. I mean, we all react to bigger sale numbers. I'd say 15% is okay. It's better than nothing. And it still will get you placed in those areas if it's not like this month Etsy's promoting 30% off items. But for the most part, 15% is still going to get you placed, and it's still going to get you more attention. If someone's scrolling, they're going to see that strike through versus it just being regular price. So I would say it's better than nothing, but I would try to figure out a way, even if it's just because you're just trying to spike sales real quick and just not even like make a ton of money on that sale, just to get that sales velocity. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Scott, we have some people saying, hey, I'm just getting started. And I know that was going to be our next topic anyway. Like getting through that first phase, how should you get started? What is the approach that we would suggest? So do you want to just dive straight into that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And this one's funny because when you're starting, it can suck really bad and you can get really frustrated. And I call this the it sucks phase because it sucks. So I'm going to give you guys some things to consider when you're in this phase, because let's face it, when you're getting started, it's exciting. It's like the best part of building a business is planning and doing the research and getting excited at all the numbers that are possible that you can do. And it's great. And then you get excited creating. But then once all that is over with, it's kind of like the honeymoon phase. It's like, then you get back into life and then you're like, okay, now we have to deal with regular everyday stuff. Okay. And it's very, very similar. And I'm not saying, after you get married, it sucks, because I've been married 30 years now and it doesn't suck. I'm actually very happy. But hopefully that was a good example and I didn't just shoot myself in the foot. But what you got to do is you have to have the expectations set from the beginning. Okay. And what I mean by that is, in the very beginning, you're not going to probably hit a home run. You're going to probably fly out. You're probably going to strike out. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of people come into this thing and they think their first product is going to be their winner. It's going to be their home run. And it's usually not. Okay. When you're building a business, because that's what we're doing. And I know there's a lot of gurus out there that are making you feel like it's just launch a product that's selling and then launch another product that's selling and then launch another product that's selling. That stuff to me is all BS, because it's not going to probably work. There's probably, I would say, a 1% chance that that's going to work for you. And if it does work for you, it's going to work for you for like 30 days, maybe, if you're lucky. And then from there, everyone else is going to be coming in doing the same darn thing. That's why we talk about building a business and having real expectations. And so what I would say to you, if I was sitting down with you, we're having a cup of coffee and I'm like, okay, you're going to build this thing. We're going to go through the product research. We're going to do all this stuff. But the expectations are, you're probably not going to make any money in the first 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer. I remember, let's see, about 3 years ago, no, a little bit longer than that, probably 5 years ago now, we were building an e-commerce business and we just rolled all the profits back into new products because we were buying inventory. And then we just kept rolling it over. And we didn't really pull any money for like the first 18 months to 2 years. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen here in this case, but if you have real expectations, you're not going to feel let down that you're not winning right out of the gate. Okay. You're practicing and you're building something that will turn into something great. Okay. So the real expectation things is big. Okay. Then from there, and I mentioned it just a minute ago, remind yourself that you're building a real business, even though you're seeing all of the thumbnails on YouTube with the mug with $15,000 and then the t-shirt with, $12,000. You guys know what I'm saying, right? You've all seen it. So all I'm saying is they're not building a real e-commerce business. And what I mean by that is like when we're building something with products in a niche that serve a customer, we know that we can take those products and we can bring them over here to our own Shopify store when we're ready. We can take those products and put them over on Amazon if we want to. We can put them on eBay if we want to. Like, there are products, okay? Even though it's print on demand, maybe, we can still take those with us. There are designs, there are products, okay? So we're building a real e-commerce business, and we need to remind ourselves of that when we're in the, oh my gosh, this sucks, right? Because it does in the beginning. You get all excited and then you're just not getting the results, okay? So the next thing that I want to highlight here is you have to validate your niche, okay? And where I see people getting frustrated is they didn't do proper validation in the beginning. And here's what I mean. You get all excited about a product, but you don't get excited about the niche that has potential to sell 3, 5, 10, 30 different products or more to the same customer. So we have to do that. And if you're struggling right now and you're in the it sucks phase, you have to ask yourself, did you validate your niche to know that if you put the time and effort in over time consistently, that there is a potential, a true potential that you're building a real e-commerce business, okay? The next part of that is, okay, maybe you picked the right niche, but you didn't pick the right product in the niche. Coming back to doing your product research. And this is why I'm a big fan of using a tool like Everbee for Etsy products, because it's going to give us the data. It's going to allow us to make really, really sound decisions. If you're not yet using that tool, I'm going to give a little shameless plug here. Go to brandcreators.com/Everbee, and you can sign up and try it for free. You get 10 free searches. After that, you would graduate to the growth plan, which I recommend. And then, yes, you would buy me a cup of coffee. And I love my coffee, by the way. But validation's a big piece in this, okay? So make sure that you validate the niche, make sure that you validate the products. And then the last thing is stay focused and put the blinders on. Don't start chasing all of these other opportunities because you're seeing a YouTube video of someone showing you a candle that makes $12,000 a month. Yes, that candle can maybe spark an idea for you. Go, can I add a candle to my brand? I might want to do that. Oh, can I add a garden flag to my brand? Maybe, right? So these are things that you might do as, let me see if it goes into my brand, not, I'm going to go ahead and sell this candle that's in the cat niche, right? Because I'm not in the cat niche, but it's selling in the cat niche, so I should probably go in the cat niche. No. You just want to know that product type is selling. Can you adapt it to your niche? So my final bit of advice here for you is to know that, yes, it sucks for everyone in the beginning, but it's the ones that push through, they stay focused, and they stay consistent. All right. And they stay disciplined. Motivation's one thing, like, yay, we can do this. You can do this. Discipline is completely different. That means that you're going to stick to the plan and you're going to execute and you're going to say, hey, you know what? For the next 12 months, I'm going to focus on this thing. I've already proven it. I've validated it. And now all I got to do is the work. And then from there, you should be able to build a successful e-commerce brand. So Chris, did I leave anything out on the it sucks Etsy beginner phase?
A couple of people said, Scott's dead. Somebody said, what you're talking about there with marriage, Scott, is called the dip. Which I don't think you've experienced, at least since I view you as, my parents. So I'm just going to pretend that never happened. Sherry said, I seriously considered giving up about 6 weeks, but you guys gave me the tools I needed to keep going. And I'm definitely seeing results. I'm still learning though. And that, Scott, I think was the most important thing that you mentioned there at the end. You talked about the difference between discipline and the emotional side of this, where it's like excitement. Yay, we start something new. I'm going to go design my face off. That's great. that goes away. And we have to have the discipline on the back end of that. And I think Sherry ran up against that. She started to find some additional tools, and she's now moving in the right direction. Scott, we had a couple quick questions that came in.
Sure.
12 wanted to know, if I have one item or a few items sucking up all of my ad money, yet I have 1,000 more items that I could run ads on, should I just turn those off or just go back and do some keyword trimming? And the answer is, if they're not selling profitably, if you're not using that budget wisely, then we need to go in and take the pruning shears to it. We're not just trimming, man. We're taking big chunks out of anything that's not profitable. And that's the one thing, Scott, we did not talk about today in terms of products, right? Maybe we're going to sell some pruning shears to those people in the gardening niche as well. But I think we got to take that weed whacker in and just start trimming everything back.
The hedge trimmers, man.
Right? What's the bobcat with the big wood chipper on the front, right? That's the first pass that we're taking. Once ads are profitable, then we're coming in with like the little tiny herb scissors and trimming some of those things back. If it's all profitable, then just add in more stuff and increase the budget. Chances are that's probably not what we're dealing with here.
I like what Alpha said. He's got it, or they got it. I don't know if it's a guess. Like niche down, build a brand, don't chase shiny objects. It's not a race. Got it. Perfect. You just summed it up very, very nicely.
Love it. Rachel said, I'm in the teaching niche. T-shirts and skinny straw water bottles are really popular, but it's really difficult because of the competition. How do I go about getting my foot in the door in a highly competitive niche like that, where there's two product types that really soak up a lot of the demand?
Yeah, I mean, that is tough. But yeah, okay, so if you're in the teacher niche, I would also be starting to think about like, okay, there's gifts that people are giving for the teacher, but they're not necessarily maybe focusing on the teacher buying things for the classroom, right? For their students or art projects or things like that, like whatever, right? I'm just, again, thinking outside the box, but that would be something that, yes, there's probably a lot of search going for a teacher gift. And yes, I would work to get there, but I think then it's just making a better design that is going to be the one that they go, I want that one. And then, yes, you're going to run Etsy ads. You're probably going to go at a loss or break even for a little bit in order to break yourself through. But it really comes down to if you, I mean, what do they say? They just said it on Shark Tank the other day. You're basically just making a better mousetrap, right? You're literally, you see that shirt sells, but it's not the shirt. It's what's on the shirt. So how do you come up with your thing that is maybe a play off of something, but yet a better design, something that someone would want more? Or how do you take something and make it unique to you, right? So there's different things that you would have to kind of go through to make that happen. But I would probably be leaning into both of those products, but just trying to come up with something better. And then I would focus real hard on that, because these people that are doing well there they probably got in early and they probably don't have to work as hard. But now, marketing, because you're sitting here with us today, you can now drive sales yourself. And, a lot of people are like, I'm not going to spend money on Etsy ads if I'm not making a profit. Okay, I will. And I will then rank, right? Like, so it's just a different mindset.
Yeah, and I think teachers is a great example. Wedding is another good example where there's a lot of demand centered around a few products. But if we start from the proposition of I'm serving teachers, what do teachers need? There's the people who buy for teachers. That's going to be the teacher gift side of things, which is what you're going to see really hot right now. School just ended, right? Maybe the school's out for summer. I'm not grading anything. Don't talk to me t-shirt, right? Something like that. But we're also getting ready for back to school stuff already. Right? So what is the next thing a teacher would buy for themselves? Maybe it's the back to school teacher gifts. What are the things they're going to need coming up? And if we start thinking about this in a little bit of a cycle, then we can start to find our way in the door. Just like in the wedding niche, Scott, the example that we use all the time is that wedding pajamas shop where who knew that wedding pajamas were a thing? Well, they looked at the whole process and they said, okay, bachelorette party, maybe they have matching pajamas. You look at it, there's some demand there. You build your whole shop from the ground up, starting with that. And then once you have your foot in the door, then you can look at teacher gifts. Then you can look at the wedding stuff. Then you can look at the other things, but you have to just figure out what are the things they're buying for themselves? What are the things other people are buying for them? And where is there not as much competition? Or can I just design better than these other people? Can I come up with a better mousetrap like you just said?
Yeah, and Rachel said, work on design skills, lower prices. Okay, that's helpful. Do a better job of speaking directly to the audience. Yes. And I would say, and I think it was Alice that said it here, I'm new and I'm constantly finding new ways to design on Canva. And she corrected herself. It's Canva, not Canvas. And we know. I already thought that before you changed it. Serious learning curve, but keeping at it. Yes. And that's the thing, right? It's like, people think, you just go into Canva quick, do a couple tutorials and you're good. No, get better at design or hire someone that's really good at design, because the design is what's going to sell. It's not necessarily the product. And Alpha says, careful on lowering prices. Don't want too low because people can think it's cheap and low quality. That's true. And I definitely think that's true, but there are people that are just going to buy because it's cheaper. And in the beginning, all we're trying to do is spike the sales to get the algorithm to see it. That's really all. Yeah. We could always, and again, I would recommend, like, if you're going to lower your prices, bring them up, right? Like you've got like a launch price, a mid-tier launch price, and then upper tier.
Troy wanted to know, Scott, before removing a listing and letting it expire, would you try to redesign and then rename the listing, or just create a new listing? I think those are two totally different things. If you're coming up with a new design because you think the idea is good, but the design is bad, then you're going to create a new listing. Before you just let it expire, if you think your title is the issue, that you're not getting impressions or you're not converting well, then change the title. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it comes down to the design, I would probably create a new listing just to avoid any confusion, get that new listing bump, and let that start over. There's nothing wrong with having two similar things in the same shop, especially if you're going to let that bad one expire.
Yep. Okay. This was a good one here too. Crochet gift. Is it a niche? No. So crocheting would be like, well, I mean, okay, I take that back. If you're in
crochet, would be.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're into learning crocheting and buying crochet designs and templates or whatever, right? Like whatever you do in crocheting, like that would be a niche. But what you're making it sound like is like a crochet gift that you're creating, that someone's not searching for a crocheting gift, right? They're looking for something like a baby bonnet, right? And that might be crocheted. But yeah, and maybe they're searching for a baby or crocheted baby bonnet, right? But even at that, I don't think that they would be. They just like the style of it. I don't think they're searching for it, but maybe they would be. But that's the difference, right? Your item that is being created that's crocheted is the thing that they're searching for. It's not necessarily how the thing was made. Sometimes material, sometimes, something that's knitted. So maybe a knitted bonnet would be different, right? So someone would search for knitted, that would be it. But knitting is not necessarily a niche in that way unless you are catering to knitters. Does that make sense, Chris?
Yeah, and I think crochet in and of itself could be a niche, right? People say, I love crochet. Maybe they're into buying crochet patterns. They're into doing crochet. That would be a niche. A crochet gift would be a product for somebody who's in the crochet niche, right? So it's a product type, just like the patterns or templates would be if you're in the crochet niche.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you clarify what a product is versus what a niche is? My shop is fantasy wall art. So does that mean the wall art is a product and fantasy is the niche? Yeah, you're actually probably a fantasy design or like a fantasy decoration shop, right? Wall art would be one type of way that somebody might want to express that. But let's just use Dungeons and Dragons, Scott, because I know that's your favorite fantasy. You're very knowledgeable on it after all the times we've used that as an example, right? You could have Dungeons and Dragons wall art. You could have Dungeons and Dragons blankets, right? Assuming that you comply with all of the requirements of their weird and unique licensing that they have. But any of those things people would use in multiple ways. So if you're into fantasy wall art, the chance that you want a really cool dragon blanket is also really high. And so by limiting ourselves to just the wall art side of that, we're missing out on all of the benefits of using the niche-based approach. And we're probably launching way more products than we need to inside of the Etsy ecosystem to hit that number that we're looking for, because we could satisfy our sales goal by broadening out the number of product types that we offer and serving that same niche, because we don't need to acquire as many customers. We can increase cart value, increase repeat business, and all of the fun stuff that comes along with the niche-based approach.
Yeah. And Sherry says fantasy art would be the niche, right? Wall art is the product. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. All right. Good. We got to thank you there. All right, Chris, I think that about wraps up all the questions and all the time that we have for today. I want to thank everyone for hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit that old like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. You'll get notified when new, lives happen, or we have an Etsy shop audit that's going to go live tomorrow. You'll get notified about that. And any videos that we post, which we're posting pretty much every day, except for the weekend. So if you want to get notified, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 100,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to us if you would help us get to that 100K, just because it's a marker that we want to hit. That's all. So if you would do that, that would be amazing. We will be back here next week. Same place, same time. And we've got another interesting topic that we're going to be talking about. I'm pretty sure we already nailed it down. I think you guys are going to really get a lot out of that. And if you guys did want that additional training of the product research that we did, where we found 3 products that are doing $1,000 plus per month, we take you through more examples. Just in the comments, put products, and you can go ahead and get access to that. Once again, little shout out to our favorite tool, and that is Everbee. If you are not yet using it and you would like to give it a try, head on over to brandcreators.com/Everbee, and you can give it a shot, give it a try. It's the only tool that we're using for product research and our email. So if you want to get access to that, go ahead and check it out. All right, guys, that is it. That's going to wrap it up. Hopefully this has helped you, and we will see you next time on the next episode. As always, take care, take action, have an awesome, amazing day. We'll see you right back here in the next episode. Take care, guys.